So you think you're prepared. You know, you got your food storage for emergencies. You have your EDC, your everyday carry kit. You have your get home bag in your car. Well, you might not be, because you might have forgotten this very, very important prep. Sadly, I think many preppers and non-preppers forget to complete what I call the final prep. Now, I am not a lawyer, nor do I play one on YouTube, but I wanted to share with you some things we found out when we did some estate planning last fall. We were going on a Mediterranean cruise for our 45th wedding anniversary, and we wanted to make sure everything was okay, just in case something would happen to both of us. And we didn't want the kids to have a mess and go through probate. So I'm sharing with you some of the free and very minimal cost things we did to avoid probate. I hope you find these tips helpful. And if you do, please click that like button. It really does mean a lot to me. You know, as preppers, I think we like to try to control things. And I don't know about you, but for me, I want to control things until the absolute moment I'm no longer here on earth. So I want to make sure when the absolute worst SHTF event happens, to me that is, i.e. my death, I've got everything organized and legally prepared. So I think it's important that we look at ways to make things easier on our loved ones when we pass. Now, if something has to go into probate, it can take up to a year or sometimes even longer. And during that time, all the assets are frozen. And probate fees can be 3 to 7% of your total estate. So I'm here to give you some tips, what you can do to possibly negate those fees. Now, if you have a spouse, they are probably listed as your primary beneficiary, but you can also have secondary beneficiaries on many different things. For instance, your checking account and your savings account, you can list your kids as beneficiaries on you and your spouse's joint account. That means they can't touch your money until you're dead, but it will go automatically to your children. And you can do something similar with your 401k, your Roth, or your pension plan. Again, you have your primary beneficiary, which probably is your spouse, but then you can have secondary beneficiaries if both you and your spouse are deceased. So easy. All you have to do is contact your bank or your credit union for the forms for your accounts, and your HR department if you're still working, or your retirement planner for your retirement accounts to get those designated beneficiary forms signed. How easy is that? Oh, one more thing though. Make sure you regularly review them. I was talking to somebody and luckily they caught it in time, but they had remarried, never changed beneficiaries on their life insurance, which was a sizable policy. And if they would have died, the money still would have went to their ex-wife. So make sure you regularly examine your beneficiaries, and are they still the people you want? And it's especially important if there's been a death in your family or a birth or a marriage status change. One of the neat things we did, which I didn't even know existed, was we made out what is called in Michigan a Lady Bird deed. And yes, it is actually named after Lady Bird Johnson, the wife of an ex-president, because it was something that she used to transfer assets when she and her husband died. Now, not all states have Lady Bird deeds, but many have something similar. And in Michigan, what that means is that I designate on our house deed who it will automatically transfer to when I die or my husband and I die. And that means it doesn't have to go through probate. The other great thing is that at the time of my death, the property value changes to what the current value is. So the kids don't have to pay any expensive capital gains tax on the property. And there's one more great thing about it. Just in case, let's say my husband's dead, it's just me, and I get something and my worst nightmare comes true, I have to be in a long period in a nursing home. And eventually Medicaid steps in, right? Well, then if Medicaid is paying for things and I die without this deed or a trust, I believe, they can go back and get what they paid on the sale of our house. So this also protects that from happening. So it's a great thing to have. Now, I believe Texas has it, North Carolina, let me see here, Vermont and West Virginia. Those are the ones I know for sure that have the Ladybird deed. But there are also something called TODs in many states, and that's transfer on death. And it's very, very similar to the Ladybird deed. And in these documents, it means you still own your house. You can sell it. You can remortgage it. You can do whatever you want with that house. It is yours until you die. And then upon your death, it reverts to the kids or whoever you've put on that Ladybird deed or that transfer of death deed. So I think it did cost me $30 to register it with the state, but what an inexpensive thing to do. And what a great, great cost saving for your kids upon your death. One more thing, contact your homeowner's insurance agent. Tell him you have done this. And I believe there's a clause they can put in your policy that the policy will transfer to your kids, whoever inherits your property, until the time you paid for that policy expires. Just a great idea, because what could happen is, it transfers immediately to your kids, but there's a house fire, earthquake, something else, and the property is entirely lost because there is no insurance. I think it's prudent to use a lawyer or estate planner for your end-of-life matters, but if you don't wish to do that or don't have the financial resources, then you can make out a will using forms online entirely free. There's something called Free Will, which is kind of clever. It's .com, and it will take you through the process, and it will give you the lingo that you need for the state that you live to make that will valid. And there are similar sites for power of attorney for your financial resources, because you might not die. You might be just incapacitated in a coma. This person then can pay your bills and take care of your financial assets until you regain your health or if you die. So again, forms available free online. And the most, to me, important thing for your loved ones that you can do is make sure you have an advance medical directive, or it's sometimes called a living will. This is just a document where you're putting down what you want for your end of life. Do you want to remain alive if you have to be placed on a ventilator? Do you want to have a DNR, a do not resuscitate if something happens? Do you want painkillers, but not other treatments, end of life? Those type of things. It's something to think about. Take your time. And there, again, are many resources online. I have some of them listed down below. So have that document, make it out, send a copy to your primary physician and the hospital that you usually go to, and make sure your kids have a copy. but even more importantly, talk to them about what you want. Because kids naturally, how can they say, no, pull the plug, right? That's it. It's a really, really difficult decision to make. I've had to make it twice before for a loved one. And luckily, we had kind of talked about it, so I know what they wanted. But it's really important to talk to your kids, your loved ones, what you want at end of life. And even, do you want to be buried or cremated? Those are all important things to let them know what you want. And it is a proper control the very last minutes of your life and your death. Now, when we were going through this process last fall, we still didn't have burial plots, and we found 2 plots at a local cemetery that is actually a historic cemetery, and it has graves, tombstones back to the 1700s, and it even has a resident ghost. I mean, how great is that? And when I'm talking to my kids, I don't think they realize I wanted real tombstones, the kind that are vertical, right? Like old-fashioned cemeteries, because I now clean my parents' and my brother's grave every before Memorial Day, and it's one of those flat kind in the ground, which makes it easy for the, yard maintenance people at the cemetery, because they can just kind of mow around. But it means I have to get down on my hands and knees with a knife and cut all the way around these, and kind of a really big ravine every year, because otherwise I swear the grass would grow right over it. So yeah, I wanted a real tombstone. And what difference does it make? I'll be dead. But that's what I wanted. So I conveyed that to my kids, but I also put it in my will and my advanced medical directive. So they just kind of want to know what my wishes are. Our estate planning is now complete, but we will review this periodically. I hope you find this information informative, and you may enjoy watching this video.